looking for that ultimate go-to list of crock pot recipes to get you through this cold fall and winter, you have come to the right place. Welcome to Meals with Maria. Today I have amazing crock pot recipes for you that I have put together over the last couple years. I've been on YouTube making crock pot recipes for years, and here they are. You can also see my family growing up during this time period. Ben here is a year old now, but as you watch these videos, you will see him grow from in my belly. Yeah, I know, you're growing up. From in my belly to the 1-year-old that he is today.
So the first recipe is labeled as a taco salad. It's like a Frito smothered taco salad, but honestly, it's really more of a taco chili. So the recipe calls for 1 yellow onions diced, and I didn't have one of those, so I just used what I had in my fridge, which is a red onion. And if you wanted to, you could absolutely just use onion powder. So that could save a significant amount of money just by using onion powder that you already have on hand. But it's my recommendation just to use, whatever you have, make it work. It's still going to taste delicious. Then I have a pound of ground beef. I got this on sale. I always buy my ground beef on sale for about $2 a pound or less. That's my goal, and I try and get a lot of it. So then I'm just cooking it in the pan with the onions until browned. And now I'm just adding everything into my crock pot while my beef cooks. So I have 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce that comes in at like 38 cents, 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, which is I think comparable to Rotel, and then 2 cans of pinto beans, which I got at Aldi for 99 cents. So far we're looking at about $2 on the meat and 40 cents on the tomato sauce and 99 cents on the beans, and I think that the Rotel tomatoes at Aldi are less than $1 as well. And then I'm using this fun little technique to get the grease out of the pan here. I have wrapped some tongs in a paper towel, and I find that tongs are the best to do this because you can actually grab onto the paper towel with the tongs. And then I'm just putting that into my meat, and this is a great way to sop up the extra fat without having to pour it into a mug or something like that in order to make sure that doesn't get down your drain. So you just want to add a 1/2 cup of water, and then I have a 38 cents packet of taco seasoning also from Aldi, and you just want to add that in there. And that is all the ingredients for your chili type mixture, and it's pretty inexpensive and delicious. So you just want to mix everything up, cook it really well, make sure that the taco seasoning is well incorporated, and then you can actually just pour this right into your crock pot along with everything else, and that's pretty much it. It's set it and forget it from here. So you can just mix everything up, and you want to set this on either high for 3 to 4 hours or low for 6 to 8. Here's what everything looks like when it's mixed together before I cook it. And then I actually cooked mine on low for 6 hours. And here is what it looks like once it is finished. And you can see everything's kind of cooked together more, well incorporated. And this was absolutely delicious. The whole family loved it. So you just put these into bowls. And then the key to this is at this point, I think we spent about $4.50. And at Aldi, you can get these corn chips for about 72 cents, I think. So you're a little bit over $5, but just top it off with these delicious corn chips, and this ends up being amazing. So I did have some extra stuff on hand, so if you have that, you can add to it. I had some cilantro, some shredded cheddar cheese, and sour cream, which you can get at Aldi for 89 cents. So these are things that can make it a little bit more expensive, but they can also add something to your dish. I'll tell you that with just the Fritos, it's absolutely fine and amazing. I know that for my kids, I can get them to eat chili if I put enough sour cream in it. Pretty much if you put sour cream or ranch dressing on anything, it is a go in my family. So it tasted so good with the Fritos, and then I always try it for you guys like the original way, and then I added some stuff and it tasted really good that way too. You can see that Tommy really.
The next meal I'm making is potato chowder. You can see those are my kids' bowls because they ate that night, and I actually had it for lunch the next day. You want to start off, like many recipes, with an onion. For this recipe, you just need 1/3 of a cup, so not that much. And then you're also going to need 8 cups of potatoes. If you have children old enough to use a peeler, I recommend you get them on this ASAP.
So before you say anything, I have learned that green potatoes are bad for you, and or at least you should get through all of the green parts of them if you are going to peel them. It's kind of seems a little controversial, but the green stuff is not good for you, and I know that now. Everybody was fine. There's no issues, and we're all feeling great. But just so you know, I know green potatoes, no good. So for my 8 cups of diced potatoes, I needed about 5 russet potatoes, and you just want to slice those up into small cubes. Add your onion, your potatoes, then add 3 cans of chicken broth or the equivalent in chicken bouillon, which you can see that I am doing. I often use chicken bouillon because it's easy to keep on hand and it's a lot less expensive to kind of keep in your pantry. And then you want to add 1 can of condensed cream of chicken soup. You're not going to add anything to this, so this is an undiluted can. Then you want to cook this on low for 8 to 10 hours. Once your soup is cooked, you're going to want to add 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now, I didn't read the directions and I went and put the entire block of cream cheese in, and then I had to stir it around a bunch and break it up, and it was kind of an issue, but it turned out great. Like, the soup is still delicious, so all the components are there. It's just going to be a lot easier if you cut your cream cheese up into little squares. It will go through the soup a lot easier, it'll mix up easier, and you won't have the same issues that I did. You can see that after a while I did get a very creamy potato soup, and then I just served this with some extra cheese on top and crumbled bacon. The kids loved it. We loved it. It's such a nice, fun thing to have in the fall. Now, I was looking at my analytics and I see that 80% watching this video are not subscribed. So I recommend that you subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. I know you keep clicking. It's time to subscribe. We're going to get started with a slow cooker chicken vindaloo. In this container of spices, I have 1.5 teaspoons of ginger, 3/4 a teaspoon of curry powder, 1 tablespoon of ground cumin, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, and 1/4 teaspoon of hot pepper. That's if you want it. I actually didn't put mine in there because the kids don't like spicy. And 1 tablespoon of mustard seeds. Then you want to put in 3 teaspoons of vinegar and 2 tablespoons of olive oil with, this is a lot to get out, guys, 3 cloves of garlic. And I'm just putting that into a small hand blender that I have. You can use any size blender, and you want to blend that up. Now, don't worry, I know that was a lot of ingredients. I did put the recipe down in the description box. Really, just getting those together, that's the majority of the work in this recipe. So once that is nice and blended up, you can see that, I don't know, my mustard seeds didn't really grind that well, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. Everything tasted delicious, so I'm not sure if they were supposed to or not. It worked out great. Then I'm going to cut up 1 onion, and I'm just going to dice that up. Then you want to add your diced onion and 3 chicken breasts quartered. So I quartered them. I cut them into 4 pieces each to your slow cooker. And then put in 1 stick of cinnamon as well as 1 cup of tomato sauce. To that, you want to add your sauce that you already broke up, your ground or blended sauce, I guess. And then you can cook that on low for 5 hours. You enjoyed a little glimpse into our lives while that chicken cooked. So that's what everything looks like when it's finished. And then I just cooked some basmati rice on the side. And I did decide to add a little half and half to this. So I know you can add like coconut milk or regular milk or cream. I happen to have some half and half. And I don't know, in my Indian food, I just like the sauce to be a little creamier. So I did add half and half, and that was delicious. That is not in the recipe. So this was a huge hit. We were big fans. I love making Indian food in the crock pot and making it at home. It is as good, if not better, than when you get something from an Indian food restaurant. So I think that just like warms your soul, especially on a cold night and a winter night. The next recipe I'm going to share is for a cheeseburger soup, or I would call it a cheeseburger chowder. It calls for 1 cup of shredded carrots, and as you know how I do, I just happen to have some small carrots, so I shredded them myself. Then I cut up about 1/2 cup of diced celery, and you need 1 small white or yellow onion chopped. I put all that in the crock pot, and the recipe calls for 4 small russet potatoes peeled and diced, and I didn't have that. But I did have that Hungry Jack shredded potatoes, and those were from Dollar Tree, and I was like, I think this will work. So add that reconstituted potato or regular potatoes to your crock pot with 1 teaspoon of dried basil, 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. Then you're going to want 3 cups of chicken broth. You can see that I used my chicken bouillon. Now you want to cook this on low for 6 to 8 hours or high for 4 to 5 hours. About 45 minutes before serving, cook and crumble your ground beef in a large skillet. You want to drain off any grease. You want to add the cooked ground beef to your cooked potatoes and vegetables in your crock pot. And now we're going to make like a roux or it's almost like a bechamel sauce, I would say. I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it's like a bechamel. And you want to take 3 tablespoons of butter and melt it down in your pan. To that, add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour and mix everything together. You can see that it's kind of like bubbling here. At that point, you want to slowly add in 2 cups of milk and mix this really well. Now, you can whisk this together. I think in my pan, I didn't really want to whisk it because I'm using a Teflon like nonstick pan, and you don't want to whisk with like a metal whisk, which is what I have. But it actually worked out just fine using my wooden spoon. You can just see that I'm mixing vigorously. You want to make sure that this doesn't like burn to the bottom of the pan. Then you want to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and pepper, and you can pour that right into your crock pot. You can see that this is like thickened up quite a bit. And to that, you want to add 2 cups of shredded cheese, or you can use a package of Velveeta. I almost like never use Velveeta, so I used shredded cheese and mix that around. You can see that this sauce made with milk and with flour really thickened things up. That's kind of what you would use to make like a macaroni and cheese, I guess like a homemade mac and cheese. And so it thickened the soup up amazingly. And the flavor in the soup is out of this world. Like, it is so comforting. It's so delicious. And I want to make it again. I highly, highly recommend it. And I don't know, I think it's like a chowder because it's potatoes, but you can totally use those shredded potatoes. I bet you could use like the frozen ones too. That would probably be fine. I really liked the way it came out using the hash browns, but I think that if you use like fresh potatoes, it might give it like a totally different style, but it would still be delicious because really it's all about the flavor, and the flavor is there on this. This next recipe is the easiest and probably cheapest. It's something I learned from my mother-in-law. She makes this and my family absolutely loves it. Sometimes she'll like send it over our house, which is great. It is a simple sausage and sauce in the crock pot. You can see I bought those sausages on manager special. When I grabbed them, I put them right in the freezer, and then I just defrosted them when I knew I was going to use them. So I was able to use 2 packages of sausages for only $3. And then I have my jar of Classico sauce. That's the type of sauce that I like. So I've been trying to buy that on sale, but you can use whatever sauce you like. You can get cheaper sauce. That's fine too. I mean, that's all good. Tomato sauce, you really can't go wrong. So you just want to take your sausage, put that in the crock pot, and then put your tomato sauce, whatever type of sauce you like, over the top. And then you can set that on high for 4 to 5 hours or low for 6 to 8. And your sausage will cook up perfectly. You're going to want to serve this with some pasta. I used rigatoni. My husband did this while I was bringing the kids to karate. So it was super easy, ready to go when we got home. And it was delicious. Also served it with some garlic bread. I grabbed this garlic bread on reduced, I think it was ready, 1 day old or whatever. Garlic bread from the grocery store is so good. I mean, you can make it yourself too, but hey, it was there. It was on sale. This next recipe is for a Swedish meatball that I saw on TikTok. I'm just using some frozen meatballs. You can just use 1 pound, but I'm going to use 2 so that I have leftovers. To your meatballs, add 1 can of beef broth, and I'm just using beef bouillon because it's cheaper and easier. And then 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. And our last ingredient right now is just 1 packet of onion soup mix. It is that simple. Then mix everything together, and we're going to put this in the crock pot on low for 6 hours. After your 6 hours is up, this is kind of what the meatballs look like. They are pretty thick. The sauce is really thick, so you're going to want to thin this out. So I am actually going to add like a little bit of a slurry. So 1 teaspoon of water and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, and then about 1/4 cup of Greek yogurt or sour cream. And then because I had so many meatballs, I really wanted my sauce to be thinner. I added about 3/4 cup of water as well. You could add chicken broth here, but because we added that onion soup mix and the cream of mushroom. There's already so much flavor in this, and they're already salty enough as is. So if you added chicken broth, I just think that you'd be adding a little bit more flavor, but it kind of depends on how you like it. So I just used water and it thinned it out just right. It was absolutely perfect. I served my meatballs over egg noodles with just a side of really simple microwaved green peas. And this was a amazing, fabulous dinner. The kids loved it. Benjamin actually thought it was like the best thing ever. And we had leftovers for actually a couple days and ate all of it. Like, it was our favorite thing ever. It's such a good meal, and it was great to have all those leftovers. It really rolled us over and tide us over for lunches in the next few days. The next crock pot meal is a Caesar chicken sandwich, and I had never had this before. Like, I've had chicken Caesar wraps and stuff, but I've never done like a shredded chicken with Caesar in a sandwich. So I was excited to try. I'm using 3 frozen boneless, skinless chicken breasts, just putting a little bit of garlic, pepper, and salt over the top, and we're going to cook those on low for about 4 hours. Chicken breasts cook up really, really fast, and if you cook them too long in the crock pot, they will dry out. So I do not recommend it. It depends on your crock pot for sure, but mine cooks fast and hot. And so in 4 hours, mine were perfectly ready to shred and nice and moist, not dry at all. You just want to shred these up whatever your favorite way is. I like to, I'm a glutton for punishment, so I just like to do it with forks, but you could just totally get out your mixer and do it a lot faster if you use your regular attachments on your mixer, your beaters, right? And then put the chicken in there. It will shred up perfectly for you. I don't know why I don't do that. Even if you're not making this chicken Caesar sandwich, this is a great way to make some shredded chicken for the week. But I am going to make the sandwich. So you just want to cover your chicken in Caesar salad dressing. I will put a recipe for Caesar dressing down below if you want to make your own. But I find that it's actually a lot cheaper than buying all the ingredients to just buy the salad dressing. I know that at Aldi, you can get it for around $1, and Walmart is probably the same. I'm just going to use a burger bun that I got 8 of at Walmart for $1. I toasted mine because I do like a little bit of crunch, and then I have a couple pieces of romaine lettuce because what is Caesar without romaine? And we're just going to add our chicken to the sandwich, and it is that simple. This is delicious. I love it. The kids loved it, and they just love everything these days, which I'm very proud of them for eating. And you know, it falls over, but it's still really delicious. And I will be making this again because it is easy and it is so cheap. I just served mine with a salad, but I also think it would be good with like some sweet potato fries or some tater tots or anything that you like to serve with a little sandwich. Potato chips, something about potatoes in a sandwich. It's got to be good. You like that?
I give it a 5.
Oh my God, he's too much. He's so excited. I think I saw food fly there. I'm like, oh, such a mess. That was fabulous. So this next dinner, we're going to make tacos. We're going to make salsa ranch tacos because they are so easy. I'm actually just using the rest of that package of frozen chicken. And I had this plan. I was going to make this salsa ranch chicken and ran out of salsa. So I had to search through my pantry. I'm like, what's salsa made out of? Diced tomatoes, onion, and a little garlic powder. And it turned out great. So, hey, if you don't have what you think you need on hand, you can make things happen with what is in your pantry. Do not forget. And I'm just going to cook this again for 4 hours on low because that's how my crock pot cooks chicken really well. But you do you, and whatever works to make sure that your chicken isn't dry, go ahead and test that out. I feel like so many recipes are like 6 to 8 hours. And if you do that, you're going to end up with chicken that is not really that great. So if you feel like my crock pot recipes aren't really hitting right, it might be because you're cooking your chicken for too long. So I was out of salsa. I was out of many things, and this is pantry cooking at its finest. I'm grabbing the last of some Greek yogurt that I had here that we're going to use kind of as a sour cream. And yeah, it wasn't a lot, but it was happy, made my kids happy for what they had. And I was like, we'll just make other things to put on top of our tacos and they'll still be good. So I'm just shredding up the last bits of some Colby Jack and some cheddar cheese that I have here. We're using every last bit of everything that is in the house before I go grocery shopping. I did have some tomatoes that were kind of on their last legs. So this is the perfect thing to make a pico out of. So if I don't have salsa, I'm going to make a pico de gallo. Usually pico de gallo does have some jalapeno in it, but because everyone in my family, aside from me, does not like spicy stuff, I opt not to use that anyway. So we're in good shape. We can make kind of a very bland pico de gallo, which was really, really good over the tacos. So I'm just dicing up my tomatoes. I have some red onion, minced cilantro. I really didn't have that much, so I actually spread this tiny bit out among my pico de gallo, and I made a fresh guacamole out of some leftover avocado as well. Add a couple squeezes of lime juice to that and a little bit of salt, and it makes a delicious fresh pico to go over your chicken. Just made out of random things that I found around my house. For the guacamole, I minced up some garlic, probably about a teaspoon of fresh garlic to about a half a teaspoon of salt. And if you don't have fresh, you could totally use garlic powder. And then that's less than a teaspoon of minced cilantro. If you have dried, that's a good option too. I just didn't have any on hand. And some red onion. Again, onion powder will do if you need it. That's probably about a quarter cup of minced red onion. And then I happen to have all these cut up avocados from different things, and they need to be used. Yes, they're a little bit brown, but once you kind of mush it up into your guacamole, everything looks fine and it looks good and it looks fresh. So not a big deal to use some leftover avocado when you're making guacamole. It's a really great use for it, and it makes it into a whole different thing instead of my kids going, "That's brown, I don't want to eat that." They love the guacamole. And I'm also going to add a couple wedges of lime to this. Just squeeze those right in. That citrus flavor really brightens up a guacamole. It's kind of what makes it so fantastic. And as I walked away to do something else with the kids, I found a bandit on my camera. So my husband's just stealing the cheese from our tacos. Not nice, not nice. I had to text him that picture. I was like, "I caught you. I know what you did." For this chicken, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to shred it up, however you like to shred it up. And this is our meat for our tacos. It's absolutely fabulous. I love that salsa and ranch flavor. And I don't think I mentioned earlier, it's probably about a tablespoon of ranch dressing, or you can use like about half a packet. And that should be plenty for you. It gives you lots and lots of flavor. And we cooked this nice and low and slow, so it's nice and moist and just fabulous. Keeping with that pantry cooking thing, I had like 4 larger taco shells and then a bunch of those mini ones left over from my fish stick tacos. So lots of options to choose from. We all had something different. This is how I made mine. They turned out absolutely delicious. You know, whatever toppings you like on them, and they were totally fabulous. Please also give this video a 5 by giving it a thumbs up and a high 5 to my channel by subscribing. So the next recipe is a pulled chicken. So I bought this entire container for $1.69 a pound, and I'm just going to open it up. I always try and buy these larger containers of chicken. I'm going to grab 2 of these chicken breasts, which is about a pound, and then I'm going to put the rest in the freezer so that I can save it for something else. For our family, about a pound of chicken is plenty. And then I'm using this Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Now, the Berman's from Aldi is only $1. So if you use $1.69 chicken and then $1 barbecue sauce, and the Berman's is just fine. I think it tastes delicious, and I think it's quite comparable to the Sweet Baby Ray's. I just happen to have the Sweet Baby Ray's still left in my fridge, so I wanted to use it. So we put 1 cup of barbecue sauce and 2 of these large chicken breasts, and you can see I didn't even trim them. You don't have to. It turned out fine. You can if you want to. And then I cook this on low for 6 hours, but you can do low for 6 to 8 or high from 3 to 4. And then in the meantime, I made something a little extra. So the chicken just by itself was amazing. That's basically what my husband ate. He just wanted to eat the chicken. And then you can buy buns from Aldi for 85 cents. So you're like way under $5 on this meal, which is absolutely incredible. I wanted to do a little coleslaw too. So to add something extra, I am making a coleslaw from, it's called like Pound Dropper. Now, I'm not using the healthy things that they said to use, but you want to add in 4 tablespoons of mayonnaise to your package of coleslaw mix. So it's like 16 ounces, and you can use light or regular. So I just use regular, but light would make it a healthier option. And then again, sour cream, you could also use some low-fat Greek yogurt, or you can use light sour cream. So 2 tablespoons of sour cream. And then I'm using regular Olive Garden Italian dressing. You could use the Aldi knockoff. You could use light Italian dressing. That's what the recipe calls for, light Italian dressing. I just didn't have it. So 2 tablespoons of this. Then we're going to add our seasoning. So we're going to add a half a tablespoon of cider vinegar and then 1 tablespoon of sugar. And again, you can use a sugar substitute. That's absolutely possible for you if you have like a monk fruit or something like that. And then half a tablespoon of salt, and then just like 1/8 a tablespoon of pepper. And you want to mix all of this up and put it in your fridge, and you can just let it cool. So I made this a little bit earlier in the day. You can see that I changed, got ready for the day, and then made this and then put it in the fridge. So I kind of like mine to be a little marinated, but you could probably do it for like a half hour and it would be absolutely fine. It was so delicious, and so it's awesome because you can make a healthy option. And so this is what the chicken looks like when it's finished, and you can tell that it's done because it basically just breaks apart. So you just want to pull that apart with forks, or if you have like some, fancy chicken pullers, you can do that. I don't know, it always says to do it outside of the crock pot, but I just do it in there because it works fine. And so those are my hamburger buns from Aldi, and I'm just going to serve the chicken either on the bun with some coleslaw, or you could add cheese to this too. On the bun like this is absolutely perfect, divine, absolutely love it. And then add in a little coleslaw and you're just like way over the top. So you're looking at a way under $5 dinner. My kids want to eat it separate. They just want to eat chicken.
Next up,
I'm making some Southern style country ribs in the crock pot, or in this case, I'm using my Instant Pot, but I am using the slow cooker setting. So you want a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of white vinegar, 1.5 cups of ketchup. I'm just using my favorite little spatula to mix that together. And as always, I'll have that link down below for you if you want to get yourself one of these little spatulas. I just love it because it's easy to clean out my measuring cups. And then I'm using 2 teaspoons of this seasoned salt. So this is a savory seasoned salt from Momofuku, which is amazing. But you can use any seasoned salt that you have, whatever your favorite is. And then I'm adding my country style ribs. So about 2 pounds of ribs to that mixture. And then you want to just mix those up, get them covered nice and easy, and cook this on low for 5 to 6 hours. Now this makes an amazing sauce. It's kind of a tangier, more vinegary sauce. A lot of times I use like the Sweet Baby Ray's, and it's very sweet, very brown sugary, and this is not like that. So it's something a little bit different, which is wonderful. And then you just take the sauce, skim off the fat from the top, and cook it in a pan for 12 to 15 minutes. And you want to reduce it to 1.5 cups and then pour it over the ribs. Now, I know it's not the most beautiful looking thing in the world, but it is delicious. And I serve this alongside my tomato salad, which I'll put a link to a video where I explain how to make that down below. And then some just fresh corn from the farm stand. And this was a delicious dinner. These would taste so good with mashed potatoes as well. So on this particular day, I am making a beef stew. I had totally planned to use a recipe, and I didn't have everything I needed. Now, thank goodness for these little like slow cooker packets that I happen to have in my drawers. So I pulled out, my favorite thing about beef stew is it's like simple, right? You use what you have. I had a part of an onion. I had, half a thing of celery. I had half a thing of carrots. I didn't even have potatoes. I'm like, you know what? We'll just use instant potatoes with that. You can see on this particular day, I'm going to the beach, so I have my bathing suit on, so forgive me. So just, slice up your onion. Anything that you have, you can use sweet potatoes. You can use, regular chopped up potatoes if you have them. Even butternut squash tastes delicious in a beef stew. So in this case, I've got my onions, I'm using my carrots and some of my celery, and then I have a couple pounds of stew meat, just placing that in the crock pot. And then thank goodness for this Campbell's slow cooker sauce. Just place that in there and cook it for about 6 hours on low. And here is the amazing soup. And then I had a bunch of these mashed potatoes left over from Aldi. Just cook these up according to the directions. And it tasted so good to have this beef stew with the mashed potatoes, and the kids loved it too. So it's just such an easy win. Keep those packets on hand for times when you know that you just can't always make everything from scratch. It's just not realistic. Now, my next recipe, this is such a good one. This is a beef barbacoa taco. And as soon as I saw it, I just knew that this was something we had to make. So you want to start off with a 1/4 cup of cilantro minced, and I'm just going to put that into one of my larger measuring cups, and we're going to make like a paste, a sauce that's going to go onto our beef. And then I'm going to add a third a cup of tomato paste, and that's just going to go in there. We're going to end up mixing everything, so not to worry, just going to go on top. I'm going to use 8 cloves of garlic. You cannot go wrong with so much garlic. It is so good in this. This is just so flavorful. As I'm talking about it, I can't wait to make it again. I almost wonder if I could make up like the sauce as like a paste ahead of time and put it in the freezer and then just have it on hand. I bet I could. Then you want to use 2 tablespoons of peppers in adobo. And then you also want to use like a tablespoon of sauce from that. So you can see I'm trying my best to kind of get it out. I didn't really want to like chop them up. I'm sure you could. I didn't feel the need to in the end. It was plenty of the peppers and adobo, and I didn't want it to be too spicy for the kids. And then 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, 4 tablespoons of cumin. So a lot of cumin in here. Make sure you have cumin on hand. I actually have to buy some, so I've been going through it like crazy. And then you want to use a tablespoon, and I think I actually use 2 tablespoons of brown sugar because you can't go wrong with that. And 1.5 teaspoons of salt, as well as a teaspoon of pepper. And then just mix everything up. Now the recipe says to take your, I think it's like a 3+ pound beef and slice it in half. And then I think it's like a round roast. And then just kind of cover it. So you can see I was trying to use my spatula and be like all dainty. And I was like, forget it. This is not, we're just going to have to rub this in. That's going to be the best way to do this. So you can get messy with it, however you want to do it. And then place that in your crock pot. And then you just want to pour 1 cup of beef stock over the top. And you're going to cook that on low for 8 hours and then shred it. So I served mine with some queso fresco, some tomatoes, some fresh avocado, and cilantro. You can use whatever you want. And then I served it with corn tortillas. I just like to cook those up on the pan and just get them a little bit warm. If you don't cook your tortillas at all, they break in half. It's really weird. So make sure that you follow the directions. You can do them in the microwave. I think they're really soggy in the microwave. So personally, I love to just cook them on a pan on like high heat, just for a few seconds on each side, and they get really perfect. And then I just sliced up my meat and put it on a big pan like this with the sauce, and the flavor was so good. You also see that I have some Greek yogurt and some pico, and I ended up serving mine with the queso fresco, a bunch of cilantro, and then I ended up adding I think it was a pico on top of that. So yeah, I'm going to laugh at myself because I have a traffic light like in the background there. And my husband bought that to put in his barn, and it just hasn't made it out there yet, but you can plug it in and it lights right up, so that's pretty fun. So I'm just cutting up an entire small onion. It does say a half an onion in the recipe, but because my onion was kind of small, I just wanted to cut up the whole thing. And then you need 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm just cutting these into smaller pieces. And then I'm going to make my sauce. So for the sauce, you need a half a cup of chicken broth, and I'm just using chicken bouillon, so I use a teaspoon of bouillon with water, and then 1 can of tomato paste. I believe it's 6 ounces. So to my mixture, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of yellow curry powder, 1 teaspoon of garam masala, 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, and a teaspoon of kosher salt. You can also add a half a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. Now I'm going to add my chicken and onion to my slow cooker. I'm going to grate in 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger and add 3 cloves of minced garlic. To that, I'm going to add my sauce in and mix everything up. I'm going to cook this on low for 4 hours. Now that the chicken is cooked, I'm adding 1.5 cups heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice, and 1.5 teaspoons of brown sugar. Mix that up well and serve it over basmati rice. This dish is absolutely out of this world delicious. Now Now this is where everything really comes together. Once you mix it, it starts to look like a real Indian dish, and it tastes like takeout, if not better. This is better than some restaurants that I've eaten at. Now I know I'm not Indian, so I don't know all of the exact flavors and if it's right. And I also don't know why it's called butter chicken, because there was no butter in it, but it's absolutely fantastic. My kids loved it. It tastes so good over rice, and we had plenty of leftovers. Next up is a slow cooker chili. I'm always up for trying new chili recipes. I feel like I've tried a bunch on my channel and no two chilies really taste alike. So you want to start by browning about a pound of ground beef. Now I absolutely love this meat masher. It just makes it so easy to cook ground beef or ground sausage. I always link everything, pretty much everything you see in the video, down below in the description box under affiliate links if you want to buy anything. Now to my cooked ground beef, I'm adding a finely chopped yellow onion. I missed grabbing this on camera, but I also added 3 cloves of finely minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 2.5 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of paprika, and 2 teaspoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. Once everything is well mixed and cooked, you want to add this to your slow cooker along with 2 cans of diced tomatoes. The recipe calls for diced tomatoes with green chilies. I didn't have that, so no green chilies for me, but it still tasted delicious either way. Kind of go with what you have, right? And then I needed 3 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce, so I had a 24-ounce can, added that right in. Recipe calls for dark kidney beans and light kidney beans, but I happen to have light red kidney beans as well as black beans. And I feel like with chili, you can kind of improvise with whatever beans that you have on hand. Go ahead and do it, and it'll turn out just fine. Just want to mix it up well, cover it, and cook it on low for 5 to 6 hours. This chili turned out phenomenal. You can serve it with shredded cheese, jalapenos, sour cream, cilantro, whatever you have really. And it's also a great make-ahead meal if you're trying to do something on a weekend to get ready for the week. Chili is an awesome, healthy meal for lunches. So next up is a crock pot chicken and gravy. So I've added 1.5 cups of water to my crock pot, and now I'm adding 2 packets of turkey gravy. Now the recipe calls for chicken gravy, but they just didn't have any at the Aldi that I went to, so I figured turkey was going to be just fine. These come in at 45 cents, and I believe Walmart is going to be a similar price. Then I'm just adding 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Now I wasn't able to get the Aldi brand that day, so that was 94 cents. But if you are able to get Aldi's brand, it is about 50 cents, and I think Walmart would be pretty close as well if you got the great value. You just want to mix all that together really well. This is an awesome meal because it's a very low ingredient meal. And then we're just going to add 2 to 3 large chicken breasts, about 1.5 pounds according to the recipe. And if you guys know me, I got my chicken on sale. So this was $1.69 a pound, which at 1.5 pounds comes in a little over $2. And that is all the ingredients in this recipe so far. So we're looking at well under $5, guys. And we're just going to pop this in the crock pot for 6 to 8 hours on low. And then you just want to shred your chicken. So this is what everything looks like. And you're just going to shred up that chicken. And then once everything's shredded, you want to add 1/2 cup of sour cream. Again, Aldi has sour cream for 89 cents, so we're still coming in right below our $5 mark on this. Now, I ended up serving this with some cauliflower mash that I had in the freezer, but you could totally just serve this with rice. Any of the meals I'm about to show you today, you could serve with rice, and you could get a 2-pound package of rice at the Dollar Tree for $1, and it would last all 3 meals. So everything is going to come in for very, very inexpensive, and it's going to work out quite well for you. This was so delicious. I've been wanting to try this for a while, and it turned out as good as I hoped it would. The next meal is Mississippi chicken. So if you saw my Christmas in the crock pot video, you saw my Mississippi pot roast, and this is a chicken version of that, and I've wanted to try this for a long time, so it was so exciting to finally do it. Now the recipe calls for I think 3 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts, and I actually had, I don't know, maybe 1.5 pounds. It was 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, which is honestly just perfect for my family. My kids don't eat a lot of meat, and between my husband and I and what we were going to serve it with, it was absolutely plenty. I was actually able to have a serving for lunch the next day. So what I decided I would do is just half everything. So what you want to do is you want to put on 1 packet of au jus if you're using your full 3 pounds of chicken, but I'm going to use 1/2 packet. and then 1 packet of ranch dressing seasoning. And again, I'm going to use about a half a packet. I have a little container of it from BJ's, so I just use a couple tablespoons. And then I'm going to put a half a stick of butter on top of mine, but if you're using the full version, you want to put a full stick of butter. Then you want to put about 6 to 8 pepperoncinis around your chicken, and then you can cook it on low for 6 to 8 hours. And I did really want to show you the broccoli recipe. It was just so easy that I made with this. So I got some broccoli actually for free on a reward at Shaw's, my local supermarket. And I needed a recipe to cook with this. I'm like, okay, we're going to have some broccoli, so have something healthy, but I need my kids to eat it. So I found a recipe on craft.com, and it is actually super easy. So you just cook the frozen broccoli according to the instructions, and then you're going to add in about a 1/4 cup of Italian dressing and a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. And that's it, guys. It is so easy. And oh my goodness, it was delicious. Like, my kids actually ate the broccoli. It took a lot of coaxing to get them to try it because they are just not fans usually. And they're like, wow, this is actually good. So they ate a whole 4 pieces each. I was so impressed. But I really wanted to show you guys this simple recipe because it is just too easy not to. And I thought that you guys could benefit from it. So here is the beautiful broccoli after I sprinkled a little extra mozzarella shreds over the top. And yeah, this was a big hit. And then here is our chicken when everything comes off, and you can see now some people shred this up and kind of like put all the sauce with it, but I actually just kind of really liked having the chicken thighs. Now mine were kind of stuck together because they were a little bit frozen when I put them in there, but they were so juicy. Like, I pulled it off right at the right time. There was plenty of chicken. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but there absolutely was. And then I also made some Instant Pot mashed potatoes. I'll make sure to link the recipe for that down below. Like I said, you could just serve this with rice and it would be delicious. And here's the proof, guys. He ate it. They actually both ate everything on their plates, so I was super impressed. You guys notice how my kids are always wearing pajamas? Because I just don't make them get dressed if we're not leaving the house. There's really no reason for it.
So the next recipe I'm going to make
is some General So, I'm going to guess, TSO's chicken. And you're going to put 1 cup of cornstarch into a bag. I'm just using my fun little bag holders here. So everything you see in this video will be linked below if you need any of it. Then I'm adding a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then a half a teaspoon of cracked pepper. Then you just want to kind of shake that around, make sure everything's mixed up, and you're going to add your chicken. So I'm going to add, this is about 4 deboned, de-skinned, boneless, well, they were bone-on, skin-on chicken breasts, but I took everything off of there and then chopped it up into some cubes. Now, the recipe does call for a boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I did want to show you how cool these are because they break down really well to store. And then, so yeah, the recipe calls for boneless, skinless chicken breast, a couple of those, and I was just going with what I had, so I pulled those out of the freezer. Those end up at 67 cents a pound, and I don't know, if I was going to do this again, I would still use boneless, skinless chicken thighs, or I would do the method that I did because I just felt like that fat really added something to it. It was really good. So you just want to shake everything around really well. Hey, and that also cuts down on costs. So we're rocking here at like $1.50 so far. And you know how much cornstarch costs is pretty inexpensive as well. And I'm going to pop that onto the stove. Now I don't really show that, but you want to cook your chicken for couple minutes on each side just to brown it up on the stove, and use a couple of tablespoons of oil for that. And then while the chicken's cooking up, you want to start your sauce. So you're going to need 4 tablespoons of hoisin sauce. And, you know, I don't know if this is something you have on hand. I definitely haven't seen this, I don't think, at the Dollar Tree. Comment below if you have seen it at Dollar Tree. A lot of times I've made sauces as well without hoisin that did call for it, and they turned out fine. So this recipe is worth it though, so if you want to go out and buy some hoisin sauce, have it on hand so that you can make this recipe all the time. 100% worth it. Then you want to add 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, which I do know that they sell at Dollar Tree. So far we're looking at a little over $1 on our chicken and $1 potentially on your soy sauce if you don't have any on hand. And I don't know how much on the hoisin, but that would be the only thing that might be a little bit over on this. And then, as always, I'm substituting, so it calls for 4 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, and I did not have any, so I used 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, ran out of that, and then used 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. If you have rice wine vinegar, absolutely use it. And then I think from there, go with the apple cider vinegar. And then the red wine vinegar was kind of a last ditch effort. It still tasted fine. I just think it might have tasted a little bit better with the rice wine vinegar. Now you want to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. So I'm just going to grate in a large clove. Then you want to add 2 tablespoons of water, and then you can add some hot pepper flakes. So the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon, which would be a lot, guys. Like that would make it super spicy and hot. I added a sprinkle and it still gave it heat. So my recommendation is if you don't like heat, don't add it. If you like a little, add a sprinkle, but even then it gave it quite a bit of heat. So adding the whole teaspoon would be quite a bit. You just want to mix this well. And this is what the chicken looks like here on the stove. You just want to toss it really well, make sure it gets crispy on the outside, and then you can add it right to your crock pot. The goal here is not to cook the chicken all the way through, but to seal in the moisture and kind of solidify that cornstarch crust on the outside. Then you want to pour in half of your sauce and cook it on low for 4 hours. Now my crock pot cooks pretty hot, so I actually cooked mine for about 2 hours and it was perfectly cooked. So you definitely want to watch this depending on how your crock pot cooks. So you can see I had my fork and knife in there just to make sure it was cooked all the way through. At this point, you want to add the rest of your sauce in there. And the only thing I would tell you guys is make double this sauce, make triple this sauce. Like the chicken sops it right up and it tastes amazing. Like it's so gooey and reminds me of, like I said, 100% that takeout chicken. It was so good, but I just wish I had a little bit more sauce so that I could put it all over my rice and just mix everything together. So I did serve this just with a white rice and actually made it ahead kind of as a make ahead lunch and dinner for the next day. And I put a few scallions and some sesame seeds over the top. But really, you can just make that chicken, make the sauce, and make some rice. And that is definitely less than $5 for you. And it is so, so, so amazing. I think even with buying that specialty ingredient, you're still going to end up pretty close to $5.
Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you got that ultimate inspiration. Go ahead and click on this video right here to see, guess what? More crock pot meals.